God's morning and happy Wednesday to you all. As you know, happy 12/8 day to you all. This is going to be my new segment, and it's a very special guest that's on today. The doctor that actually God used to save my life. I'm still here because of him, his knowledge, skills, faith, and connections. So, as you know, today my special guest of my first Did You Know of 12/8 special guest interview is with Dr. Lucien Mirrane. And let me pray us in, Dr. Mirrane.
Absolutely.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this podcast interview. Help us engage in meaningful discussion and allowing it to fall on fertile ground. Give us the right words to say to capture people's attention, and I pray that they share this interview with whoever they believe could also benefit from something they learned or heard today, or was edutainment, being educated and entertained. These are our prayers through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. So, Dr. Lucien Mirrane, today is December 8th, the anniversary of my brain stroke, as I sometimes call it, my REbirthday. And I'm so grateful for having the honor and privilege to interview the man, Dr. Lucien Mirrane, who God used to save my life from both the rare and unknown birth defect that had ran in my family's bloodline for several generations until it ran up on me, Ree, as I am proud to be the generational curse breaker of my family. And not only did he use his knowledge and skills and connections, but his faith to ensure that I had the chance to continue living my life, to be here for my family, friends, and associates, not to mention the newborn baby that I'd had and the man that God used, the other man, my husband that God used, Alex, who awoke from his light sleep as he heard me gurgling on the other side of the bed. And when he called my name and I didn't respond, he got up and came over and found me stroked out on the other side of the bed with our less than 7-day-old baby sleeping between us. And by the way, she hadn't yet quite made it to 7 days yet, because it was just that early in the morning. I think it was still dark, so it's at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's light everywhere, but so that just shows how early it was. I don't know the exact time, but thanks be to God for me still being here today. So, Dr. Mirrane, how are you really doing today?
Oh, I'm wonderful today. It's a privilege for me to be here, and I'm thrilled that you got in touch with me.
I appreciate it.
Back then as well as today.
Yeah. Yep. But and this is my platform to share my many messes that God changes into my messages. So would you care to share the miraculous backstory of how it came to be that you be the neurologist on time, on duty at the time that I came in for my life-threatening and emergency surgery?
Well, we would all share call the neurosurgeons that were on staff, and that was a weekday, as I recall. So it wasn't a weekend.
I think it was a Wednesday.
Yeah, it was the middle of the week, and so I was on call that Wednesday, and I got the call to the emergency room, and by the ER doc, and looked at your scan, came to the emergency room, evaluated you, and knew that you needed an emergency operation
Yeah.
to survive this hemorrhage.
Yes.
There's two types of strokes that we have. But yet it's what one called, the layman's term we use is a wet stroke or a dry stroke. A dry stroke is usually the ones that happen to older folks.
Okay, and that's the twisted mouth and the arm that's part of the body is paralyzed.
Yes.
Okay.
And yours was too. You were weak on your right side, but you were in a coma.
Okay.
You didn't realize it.
Okay.
And you had you weren't able to speak. But what happens is, in a younger person, it's usually a wet stroke. It's a hemorrhage with blood. And in your case, we were very suspicious because you were a young patient and especially just postpartum.
Yes.
That you had a possible AVM.
Yep.
Which the blood volume is tremendously increased in pregnant ladies. And around the postpartum area, timing, you're just starting to get rid of all that extra blood and plasma.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, because your tank is too full, so to speak.
My cup runneth over.
Yeah. That the AVM that you had was more at risk to bleed during those periods of time. And so we're always very suspicious if a younger lady who is obviously pregnant or just had a baby may be harboring one of these things.
Wow.
AVMs. And so it brings a different layer of what we do in surgery to know this ahead of time, rather than just jump in and operate on the clot and remove it, because we know that there's something more there.
Yeah.
And that's why it wasn't only that, but the CT scan, but the angiogram that we did.
Okay.
Or arteriogram. And at the time, I don't recall whether it was a CT angio or a regular angio. CT angio would have been quicker. So under the circumstances, that's what it probably was, the quicker of the two tests to give us that information.
Yeah.
So that's what brought all this about.
So how did you know, had you ever had a patient who had the condition that I had? And how did you know?
Go ahead. It's fairly rare, but yes, I've had a few.
Okay.
And plus, you just if this is an 80-year-old, it's probably not an AVM.
Yeah.
But if it's a younger person, a woman, particularly postpartum or right at the time of birth, you're highly suspicious of this condition.
But I think it's funny because Zahn Michelle was my fourth baby. I had 3 other babies. My first baby, I was 18, and I had her, and it's funny because that was an emergency surgery too. I had to have an emergency C-section with her because some kind of way I had developed an infection in my placenta. And I was like, what? Who has? And they said that if they didn't do surgery immediately, I could die. So they had to do an emergency cesarean section. Yeah, get her out. And me and her was in the hospital for like 7 days after, and we both were on antibiotics. But I have no idea how I contracted that. How does anyone get an infection in their placenta?
That's a good question. I'm not an OB, but it can happen. I mean, if you, it's a very vascular, number one, it's a very vascular organ. The placenta is an organ. And if you had even just something like brushing your teeth, or if you had, when we brush our teeth or floss our teeth, we get bugs in our blood. And that can cause a septic reaction of sepsis, and most of that is usually knocked out by our immune system. But perhaps around the time of pregnancy, your immune system's maybe not quite as good because of the stress of the pregnancy, and it goes to a vascular organ, the bugs in the blood, and that's my guess, educated guess.
That's amazing to me. You say bugs when you brushing your teeth?
Well, yeah, absolutely. When we floss or brush our teeth, we will bleed a little bit around the gums sometimes, and that's just one example. But you might have. There's other ways you can do it, but that's one of the more common ways.
But that's amazing to me. This is America. This is modern day America. We don't have bugs in our houses. You mean like what kind of bugs?
I should say bacteria.
Okay.
It's bacteria.
That makes a big difference. Because I was like, we don't have no bugs in our house.
No, it's bacteria.
Okay.
And those bacteria get.
I know bacteria is everywhere. Yeah. So.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I was like, what kind of? We don't have any bugs in our house. What kind of bugs?
No.
Thanks for verifying that.
We kind of use
in the medical field.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just kind of say, "Oh, you got those bugs floating around,"
So, but I mean, my mom even mentioned that I had a praying doctor who did my surgery, and after you performed the surgery, you told her that, you told them, the family, that it was all up in God's hands now. You had did all you knew how to do.
Right.
And from that point on, I was in God's hands.
Yes.
That is deep.
We opened, your skull, took the blood clot out, and at the same time removed the vascular malformation that had bled, and there was probably a little bit of damaged brain that we removed as well.
Yeah.
And then close you up, and we've done what we were taught to do. Wow. And it's in God's hands from there. I mean, we in your hands, the difficult recovery that you went through in rehab.
Yeah.
It's that's just the first part of it, the surgery.
Yeah, because I had.
Now, if you don't do the surgery, you're not going to get through the other. So you got to go take the steps each one at a time.
Oh, well, that's most definitely. Had you not done the surgery when I was, and that's amazing how the timing of everything happened just like clockwork. It was right on time, and it's like nobody can make things happen like that. Because you didn't know me. Even after I came in, I just got in touch with you years later after I went and saw my neurologist. And I was like, I want to interview Dr. Mirrane. And he was like, well, I think he's, retired now and lives in Florida. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And I asked him for an interview, but he doesn't have time. He's taking on, I'm not going to say he don't have time, because more likely he's going to be able to eventually have an interview with me after this. But he's busy with, his caseload is really heavy now.
Yes, so, it is. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So that's why
he'll do it one day for you.
Yeah. And
he's a good man. He's a good man.
He's taking great care of me. Because like I say, I've come a long way. Because the video that I did with a friend of mine during COVID, I tell my backstory of how I had, I grew up having headaches, and my mom just, brushed it off like, well, here, just take some Tylenol and go lay down. It's just, and then once I got in third grade, it was like, I needed glasses. So she was saying, you just not wearing your glasses. It's eye strain, and go lay down. And it was always something. And I was like, well, if I keep complaining about the same thing, I'm a kid. I'm looking to you for help. Shouldn't it click that, okay, she keep complaining about her head hurting. I don't know what this is, but we gonna find out. So maybe that's me, because my daughter, she's 14 now. She made 14 on the 1st. And she's been complaining about headaches. Well, I also realized she does a lot more than I did when I was a kid. So she takes ballet with Nova in their pre-professional program. So that itself is a lot of stress. And but she's been complaining about headaches recently a lot more than I'm comfortable with. And knowing what I was born with, I'm not taking any chances. I want to be the generational curse breaker of our family. So I'm making her an appointment to go and have an MRI done to find out if she possibly has an AVM, so she can start getting treated for it. Yeah, because even my mom, after she left from down here, when she went back up to Houston, she went and found a neurologist who tested her and found out she had one. But she didn't grow up having headaches. And my younger cousin, I interviewed her, Keisha. She was my very first interview last September. And come to find out, she has the same story as me. She grew up having headaches, and as a child, you don't realize, you don't think of, well, why is everybody, I don't ever see anybody else having to lay down and be quiet and go to sleep. And I mean, our heads would be hurting so bad. I remember having to pull the cover over my eyes. I couldn't stand to see light. Even natural light bothered me. I would have to have the covers over my head. And she tells the same story because she tell her mama, my head is hurting. Her mom would just give her medicine. So she started, eventually she got tired of telling her mama too. She started self-medicating herself when she was a teenager, just like I did. And hearing her story was like, you know, this is something that people need to know about. If your child is complaining about headaches and they not somebody who complains often, or depending on, you know, your child better than anybody else do.
Yep.
If your child is complaining about something consistently, take them to the doctor.
Absolutely.
And let the doctor run tests and rule out whatever they're complaining about. That way you'll know for sure that it's not what they say it is, and it's not what you thought, but they'll be free and clear.
And the point is, it's unusual for a child to consistently complain of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And exactly. That's a lot of, in days gone by, that, you know, you tend to ignore children and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know
not
children.
Anymore, we shouldn't anymore.
No, and like I say, knowing my story, what I dealt with myself, and then with Keisha, my cousin Keisha, because my mom's brother is her dad. So it runs on our family. And come to find out, after talking with the family years later, I found out that the strokes that generations of my family had passed away with, all of them had the same birth defect that is rare and unknown, but hereditary, and ran in our bloodline for generations. So I'm standing up as the generational curse breaker, and I don't want anybody else to have suffer the way I did having a brain stroke. Because I had a long way. It's been a long journey. But I am so happy to be back to where I am today. Yep. So, do you believe that God gives preferential treatment or favor to doctors who are believers who pray versus unbelievers who don't?
Well, I would. There's two ways to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I think naturally you'd want to say that yes, he gives preferential treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But there again, too, God is big enough, and not being a human, he's above us.
Yes.
He would say, well, this man's going to take, or a lady's going to take care of people, and I'm going to treat them all equally.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
he doesn't have favorites.
I tell you, yes, he's not going to play favorites with people, because those people that need the doctor may certainly believe in him.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
And they can have an unbelieving doctor taking care of them.
Yeah, but still, he wants that doctor to do a good job on that patient as well.
Definitely. Yeah. But
you know what? It's for a doctor who does believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's somewhat. What we're doing is very stressful and very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of shoulder some of that with him, and share some of that stress with him, it puts you more at ease.
Yeah.
That's what I would say is a plus, and it may be more of a plus for the doctor.
Yeah.
And as a result, if your doctor's more at ease, and it may be better for the patient. So there's two ways to look at it.
Yeah.
And so I always there's actually I don't have it. I wish I had it. I should have brought it. A surgeon's prayer that we frequently use. And it's basically asking him to we're putting our faith in him to guide us with all the knowledge that he has given us.
Wow.
And to put it to our brains and hands and make us perform to help the patient as best we can.
Yeah.
And it's a surgeon's prayer, and it's very commonly used by doctors.
That's wonderful to know. I know it because I had no, and it's just in everyday life, you don't think about stuff like that you want a praying doctor, a believing doctor to pray before he does anything. And we just, as people, just take for granted that, they just go to whatever doctor somebody referred them to. And it's like, no, really, it needs to be more than that. More thought needs to go into it than just somebody referral because they were popular.
And we tend to, I think most of us tend to kind of keep that to ourselves and just, you don't want to come across like somebody in a tent out in the street.
Yeah, like a holy roller.
Yeah. So it's more personal.
Yeah, and I understand.
And so that's how most doctors would look at it, I believe.
Yeah. And I was told by my husband's mother, my mother-in-law, that I also had a mild heart attack while I was in recovery from my brain surgery. Do you know anything?
Maybe I don't specifically. I can't say that I specifically remember that. But if you did, if there was some cardiac issues, we certainly would have. I don't know. Did you? If we certainly would have had a cardiologist check you out, and naturally, the anesthesiologist would check you out first.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember.
If we felt that a cardiologist was necessary, that would have been done immediately as well.
Yeah. I don't remember anything from that time, even to the point where. You let the driving to us. Exactly. Y'all were in full control.
Right.
Because I don't even remember being transferred to Turo Infirmary. But come to find out, that was a hospital that you had worked at before, and you knew they had a good rehab department.
Their rehab department was the best in the area.
That's good, because they did a wonderful job. Like I told you, because I had to relearn how to do everything all over. I was like a big baby.
Well, and that's the beauty of our brains. It's very plastic.
Yes.
And you have that capability, especially the younger you are.
Yes.
And so it's a marvelous organ, the most marvelous organ on the face of the earth, actually.
Yeah.
Is the human brain, and it was such a privilege to be able to work on. That's one of the things we took very, very seriously.
Yeah. because I had to relearn to do everything. But again, it was like a clean slate. I was like a big baby. I had to learn how to walk again, talk again, and feed myself, because when I first started eating, I couldn't even eat regular food because I was on a feeding tube.
That's very common with folks that have a significant brain injury.
Yeah.
Is the swallowing mechanism is a very complex mechanism.
And it's funny how God made everything so intricate and well thought out. Who would have thought? I never thought the way I swallow had anything to do with my brain.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's amazing how he put us together, all these intricate parts and systems that need each other. They feed off of each other. Yep. But and the seizures that I have, is it true that possibly comes from scar tissue on my brain because from the surgery that I had?
That, and also patients with sometimes will have, like, if they have an AVM, they will have many tiny little hemorrhages that really don't cause much in the way of symptoms, other than what happens is the blood will get out in and around the brain tissue, and just a little bit of blood, tiny amounts, and irritate the cortex, the neurons, and that will cause a seizure. So sometimes, actually, I've seen patients present not with a hemorrhage, but with a seizure, and you scan them and you find the AVM. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
so
it's the
opposite.
Clot. You had a huge hemorrhage.
Yeah.
But we find the AVM, and that is, again, is a very common presentation of AVMs in younger people, is they present with seizures.
Wow. That's amazing. And
so unfortunately you had the double whammy.
Yeah.
you had the huge hemorrhage, and then due to the scar tissue and the surgery, and, we go in and irritate things when we go in there.
But you know what? I remember,
to do what we have to do, it will, and scar tissue will be the result of that.
Yeah.
And that can incite seizure activity.
Yeah. But it's also amazing because I remember from when I was in labor, before I gave my final push, it's like, I don't remember whether I speak about this in the video, the interview testimonial I did with John Aquani. Did you check out that link? I'm retelling the story from what my husband has shared with me. But I remember when I gave my final push, it's like, I don't remember whether I heard a pop or I felt it. But from the time I pushed her out, I could hear, I thought it was running water, but it actually turns out it was my blood. Actually, my AVM had burst, and that was my own blood swishing around in my brain. And I had a major headache, the worst headache ever. I compare it to a headache on steroids, because that was the worst headache I had ever had in my entire life.
And that's when patients do have a brain bleed, the first part of the bleed that gushes out, so to speak, they will describe as the worst headache of their life.
Yeah. And I dealt with that for almost, it wasn't a complete 7 days since when I had my husband woke up and found me stroked out on the other side of the bed without newborn, laying there sleeping quietly between us.
Right.
But he had called my name because he woke up because he heard me gurgling. And then he got up when I didn't answer. He got up to come over there and see about me, because he know,
what's going on.
Yeah, what he know, when I left the hospital, I had been complaining ever since I had her that I had a bad headache, and all they could give me in the hospital was Tylenol. Well, that Tylenol wasn't doing anything. So I was like, I need something stronger. So on the way, when we were released from the hospital, a couple of days later, we stopped at CVS down the street from Oshner main campus on Jefferson Highway, and on our way home to back to Metairie. And my head hurt me. It was like nails on a chalkboard, because I could feel, and it was like I could feel my pulse in my head, like a heartbeat.
Well, that's very, very, I would say that's probably not, that's definitely what happened. You were leaking blood out of the AVM at the time.
And then I was trying to breastfeed. I hadn't breastfed any of my other kids, but I always wanted to. And I was trying to breastfeed my baby, but between because breastfeeding is painful, and I don't know whether
I wouldn't know, but okay.
I don't know whether it is. I don't know whether what hurt worse, my boobs or the pain in my head, but I just couldn't do it. And my husband had to go out and get formula for our newborn to feed her so she'd be okay. But it was like, Lord have mercy. My angels was definitely around me for that event. Definitely around me. And it was perfectly timed. My husband called the ambulance. They came and got me to the hospital in just enough time. You came, did what you had to do. You used your knowledge, your faith, your knowledge, and skills to do what you had to do. And then after the surgery, you referred me to someone that was already in your contacts list from where you had worked before for my rehab.
Yep.
All of that is a major part of that played a major part in who I am today. Because
it's a big team.
Yes. At Turo, I had a roommate, and I have two little dents in the front of my forehead from where you mentioned you had to take some of the skull out, but my roommate in Turo had half of her head literally cut out. Half of her skull was missing.
Yeah.
And you could see that deep slit from where part of her skull was missing, and it looked really weird. And I was like, oh my God. And my little dents compared to that, and as a matter of fact, it's been so long now, I don't even see them anymore. And to keep in my mind what all I've been through, 12/8, I keep the left side of my head shaved. So I have a backstory on that. My then youngest daughter, well, my next to the youngest daughter, was having some trouble, and she was in the military. She was living up in DC. So I went up there to help her. And I didn't have a clue. I didn't remember. I didn't realize I had a scar in my head until we went to do some, girl time. And we went to this hairdresser to get our dues done. And I remember back in the day, I used to wear both of my sides shaved. And I asked her if she could shave my left side so that that would be a visual reminder of what I went through. So she was like, okay. So she got the shaving, and she was like, what? You have a scar in your head? And I was like, huh? And she gave me the mirror, and she was like, it is funny because it looks like a horseshoe.
Yes, that's.
And I was like, oh my God. So I made it a point. I keep that side of my head. That's my testimony. Everywhere I go, I share my story, and I create t-shirts. I have this podcast. I want everybody to know that there is a God, and I'm an example of his work. I'm a miracle, a living miracle.
Well, if this had happened, I would say 50, 75 years ago, even sometimes if it happened today, you're not going to live. But certainly 50, 75 years ago, the likelihood that you would survive this, certainly 100 years ago, would be almost zero.
Yep. I believe that. Because like I say, I'm the generational curse breaker. Because I don't know whether this was something you learned in school, that there's different types of strokes. But I believe that God kept me here for a reason. So I'm using this platform that he gave me to share my story. And then in case other people think, oh, she just a Christian girl, why didn't you try it this way? Because I've had people do that. They like, you just being extra. I just do this, and that. I could do exactly this, and that, and it won't work out for me the same way. That's just not my life. My life is full of mistakes, mishaps, but God takes all of my messes and turns them into messages that I'm here sharing on the platform that he gave me. So,
well, that's a wonderful thing.
Yep, and hopes that it'll help somebody else. Yep. So, now let's move on to your upbringing. Okay. Your family. Who were you raised by?
My mom and dad. I lived in and was brought up in Metairie, born at Baptist Hospital.
Okay.
And lived in Metairie and went to school in Metairie at St. Francis on Metairie Road.
Okay.
And then went to high school at École Classique in New Orleans on Napoleon Avenue.
Wow.
And then to LSU and LSU Medical School.
Mm-hmm.
And did my residency at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and then moved back home. I wanted to go practice back at home, and so moved back into Metairie and was working at East Jefferson.
Wow, so I've heard that medical school was hard.
Yes, it is. Residency's even harder. It was 11 years of work, and
for a residency?
Well, medical school 4 years and 7 years of residency.
Oh my God.
So it was 11 years of training after college. After I did my pre-med.
Yeah.
At LSU.
So wait, pre-med is not the same as residency.
No. Pre-med is when you go to 4 years of college and take a lot of science courses, biology, chemistry, that kind of stuff. And then you go to medical school for 4 years, which is intensive, and that's how you get your MD.
Yeah.
And then you generally do an internship. If you're going to be a surgeon, you do a year of general surgery internship.
Wow.
And then do 6 years of neurosurgery after that. So a total of 11 years. And then you've got to pass exams, board exams, written and oral.
Yeah.
I had to go up to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and take my oral boards.
I didn't realize you guys took oral tests. I thought it all was written.
No, oral as well.
Wow.
And several of the real, it's the professors that teach at various, multiple universities. It was a whole day of testing. Mm-hmm. That you've got a group of, it was about 3 or 4 groups of 3 or 4 doctors that would question you and present cases to you just like this. They may have presented something like your case and say, well, what do you do with this? What do you do with that?
Wow.
And that actually, you take that test approximately a year after you finish your residency, and I was practicing at that time at East Jefferson.
Wow.
And that's your final test, because they want to see, what they do is not only do you take the test.
So that's like on the job training.
Yeah, they want to see what you've done.
Yeah. They
want to see what you've done over the past year.
Yeah.
And what your practice is like. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so it's quite intensive. And, you can imagine for neurosurgery, they just don't want anybody just going out there and fooling around.
Exactly. I'm thankful.
It's a very arduous journey, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's worth every blood, sweat, and tear that you go through to get through that. And you give up a lot of your time, and you can imagine, between that 11 years,
yeah,
there wasn't much in my life other than my wife and my 2 kids that came during residency. That was about it, other than my medicine and what I was training to do. And both of our kids were born in Nashville, actually.
Wow.
And then we moved back in 89. I'm sorry, 89.
Okay.
Yes, because I was in Nashville from 83 to 89.
Okay.
And so and I've lived in Metairie the whole time that I was practicing, and sold my house a couple of years ago and moved here in Tampa, or actually St. Petersburg.
Wow.
And I've joined there's a college here that there's a group of professionals that talk about medicine and things like that. It's a bunch of older ladies and men, and so I'm still in it.
Yeah.
You never stop being a doctor.
Yeah.
And you want to keep up. I still get phone calls from patients, old patients and friends. Look, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And neighbors. I visit neighbors. I had one bleeding from a wound, and I took care of him and got him to the emergency room. And so, no, you never stop being a doctor.
So it's your calling.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one that I've always loved, and I miss active practice, but there's a time I could still do it, but it emotionally, and you want to spend more time with your family and grandkids now.
Yeah.
That I gave up so much time in the past.
Yeah. It's like you lose a lot on the front end, so on the back end you really want to try to recoup, make up for that time you lost.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I hardly saw my kids grow up, and so you want to, that sacrifice that you did, you want to have a little time after to enjoy your kids and grandkids by then.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So.
Are your parents still living?
No, they both passed away.
Okay.
My mom passed away when she was only 50. She had an accident, was involved in an accident.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, it was horrible. It was bad, but I was still in college, and my sister was in high school. It really affected her more than me. But
a car accident?
Both. Yeah.
Wow.
And then my dad passed away. It was about not even a week after Katrina. No, I'm sorry, before Katrina. And so we were kind of still in shock from him passing, and
then Katrina happened.
It was about 5 or 6 days later Katrina hit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a upheaval.
Yeah, because my in-laws, my sister and her husband and their kids came, and they actually came to Houston because we didn't move here until 2009. So they came up to Houston when Katrina hit, and we were watching it on TV. Katrina was a beast. And then the levees here, unimaginable. And the care that the government, the way the government treated the people here during that time, it was
terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
But they didn't have any concept or any idea how bad it was, because Katrina was a whole different beast. I mean, I lived through several other hurricanes as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
And they were nothing compared to this.
Yeah.
And Katrina was
tack on
almost the end of the world.
Tack on some levees that needed maintenance for years.
Absolutely.
That have been neglected.
Yep.
That's a recipe for disaster, which exactly Katrina was a major disaster. Yeah.
And the people like to blame God on things and stuff like that. It wasn't God's fault.
Nope.
We
man's
screwed
fault.
it up. It was a man-made disaster. It truly was.
Yeah, because had those levees been maintained the way they were supposed to be maintained, the storm itself wouldn't have been that bad. Even though it was the worst hurricane, it wouldn't have been that bad if the levees would have held up. If the levees
didn't break, absolutely, it would have been terrible, but it wouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah. People still, and a lot of people, it displaced a lot of families. I have a guy, Burnell Colton. He lives in the 9th Ward, and supposedly a lot of the 9th Ward still hasn't. This has been, 19
years.
Yeah.
19 years.
And a lot of that area has not come back. And him and his wife has started a store for that community because nothing. It's like a lot of the houses are deserted.
Like
that area, yes. It's like a ghost town. So they have a little store where people can come and they even have for kids to have internet to do the homework, because now everything is technologically advanced. So if you don't have internet, you screwed. And the schools are using...
You're living in the dark ages.
Yes, exactly. And all schools now are using computers, which you need internet for your computer. So he's even opened a cafe that has free internet for the residents around there. And that's wonderful.
Well, if you look at the population of New Orleans before Katrina, it was somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000, I believe.
Yes.
And now it's 350,000, 60,000. So there's been 150 to 200,000 people less in New Orleans
that didn't come back. They chose not to come back, because I know we got a lot of Louisianans that came up to Houston, and I think they went Houston, Atlanta.
A lot of people probably stayed.
Yeah, they stayed. They bought homes. They got jobs. So they have no intentions on coming back to Louisiana.
Made a different life.
Yeah,
well, even as close as Baton Rouge is probably 100,000 bigger.
Wow.
Or 100,000 more people than before Katrina.
Wow.
And I think that's the closest place to New Orleans that really busted at the seams was Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Wow. But like you say, that wasn't God. That was man.
No, we screwed that up.
Yeah, we as mankind screwed that up.
Yep.
But
there were houses. I can tell you a story I read after the storm. Along the 17th Street Canal, the houses behind from Veterans Highway to Hammond Highway, that first street off the canal, the 17th Street Canal, there were people complaining of water in their backyards. And that was around Thanksgiving or November. And the Surgeon Water Board came out, tested the water, and the results were, no, that's lake water. That is not sewage. And nothing was done.
How did water from the lake get in their backyard?
It was going through the levees. It was leaking. The levees were leaking. That levee that's along that Orleans Parish, that 17th Street Canal, was leaking through the levee into the backyards. So that was a man-made disaster.
Unbelievable.
Yes. And that was, November, 8 months later, Katrina hit. And that's what, the levees were falling apart.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Wow. Leave it to mankind.
Yep. That's right.
We've been failing from the very beginning. God made Adam and Eve. Eve let the devil trick her into tasting the forbidden fruit that God had specifically told them, you can eat every other thing in the garden except from the tree of knowledge.
Yep.
And what did she do?
Just like a kid. Like a kid. Whatever mom and dad says, don't do this, you don't do. Well, man we're an incredible being, but we're far from perfect.
Yes.
You know, as I said earlier in the discussion, that our brain is probably the most amazing organ on the face of the earth, considering the whole animal kingdom, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And the way we use our brain, it's not perfect.
And it's far from perfect.
Yep.
Far from perfect. Yep. So, how many siblings do you have? I know you mentioned you had a sister.
I have a sister, yeah, and she lives down the street from me. That's why we moved here. She has a home down the street, 3 doors down.
Who's the oldest?
And, pardon?
Who's the oldest?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
How many years apart are you guys?
We're about 6 years apart. My mom lost a baby in between us.
Okay.
So, anyway, we're very close.
That's good. Yeah. Every family has a saying that they live by in their household. What was yours?
Let's see.
The words of wisdom, something you heard a lot growing up.
Let me think about that. I guess I was always, believe it or not, I was kind of a wild kid.
Mm-hmm. What?
Not crazy wild, but I like playing ball, all that kind of stuff, and I would have to say that they would urge me to study, get in your room and study, because I was out running the streets, playing ball, etc. and I was gifted with a good mind, and because of that, I guess I took advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. There was a lot of things I didn't have to study a lot.
Yeah.
And
must be
however,
nice.
as you go farther along, it changes.
Yeah.
You go from grammar school, you go to high school, it gets harder.
Exactly.
You go from high school to college, it gets harder.
Yeah.
You go from college to medical school, it gets harder.
Yeah.
And so that came back to ring. I had to stick my nose in the books longer, and so it was get in your room and study. And I learned to do that on my own eventually, obviously.
Yeah.
And because it was an arduous, a rigorous, whatever you want to call it, task to go from, I always say, I went through 29th grade for all those years.
So, wow. You amazing. You are amazing.
I think I did what, I was given some tools and given a good mind.
Yeah.
And I used it, and because it would have been wasteful not to.
Exactly. But plenty of people don't do that, though. God gave it to you.
A lot of people waste it. Yes, you're right.
Yes, they don't. They don't take life serious. They think, we all just here. It ain't no higher being. And it's like, are you serious? Why do you think you're breathing? Why do you think you wake up, you're blessed to wake up every morning? Just the
And we all have talents.
Yes. Everybody has talents.
And God has given us that.
Yes.
And
freely.
If we don't use it, I suppose it's sinful.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Yeah. Well, like they say, the richest place in the world is the graveyard.
That's right.
Because a lot of people who don't use their talents, they die with them, and it's buried.
Yep. That's true.
Yep.
Very, very true.
Yeah. Who was the disciplinarian in your home? Your mom, dad, both, or neither?
Probably both, but my mom, because dad worked a lot and he wasn't around. But so, if mom said, well, he was being bad today, I'd get it again maybe from him later that evening.
That sounds familiar.
wonderful parents, and I was very fortunate, because I think in this day and age, as you well know, we were meant to be nurtured. We're not like some animals that the baby gets spit out.
Yeah.
Or and they fare for themselves.
Yeah.
The human baby takes a tremendous amount of nurturing, and you get a miraculous outcome, but it takes 20, 30 years if you think about it.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. Being a parent, I now see that, no, you don't. When I thought I was grown, no, I wasn't grown. I'm still learning.
No, you don't learn. If you're really smart, you don't stop learning until the day you die.
Yeah, exactly. Life is a lesson.
I always would say, if you were a doctor and you figured you knew it all, I'd tell a patient, run away from somebody like that. Because you don't stop learning.
Nope, you don't ever.
We took courses, and I did operations toward the end of my career that I never thought of doing in the beginning of my career. So you have courses, you have meetings you go to, and continuing medical education, we call it CME. And I still do some of that.
Yeah. That's good, though. It keeps your brain.
You're a doctor. You're a doctor.
It keeps your brain pliable.
Working.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if you don't use it,
you lose it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Faith, would you say your family was religious? And what religion were you raised in?
We were Catholic.
Okay.
Went to Catholic school for, well, ACOL was a Catholic school kind of too.
Okay.
Really through high school. And so, that was a big part of our lives.
Okay. Did you attend
Remember
church?
I mentioned St. Francis on Metairie Road?
Yeah.
And I still went there before I moved here.
Cool.
So from the time I was christened, till through First Communion, confirmation, all that stuff.
Cool. So you guys attended church regularly as a family?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did with my kids, and now they're grown and gone,
And carrying on the
families,
generation.
So, Yep.
The tradition.
Yep.
What was your favorite part of church as a child?
I guess Christmas season. But I guess that was partially being selfish, because it was so much fun. You got all your presents and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, the Christmas season to me is so it's a wonderful season.
Yeah.
Everybody's nice to each other, good to each other, giving. And the family get-togethers, and the holiday, that to me is very, very important.
Yeah. Okay. And what activities were you in at your church?
Because I worked so much, not a lot.
Okay. Even as a child? I'm talking about when you were little.
Oh, no. When I was a kid, it was, just school, and I wasn't an altar boy.
Okay. See, my dad he grew up Catholic. He was an altar boy.
Okay, altar boy. I was not an altar boy, but I was always, like I said, out running around. And, but no, I guess, as an adult, I occasionally usher at the church and collect money and that, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay, so how old were you when you were confirmed?
I was in 5th grade, so that would be 6th grade. I'm sorry, 6th grade.
Okay.
I was what?
12 or 13.
12. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, 12. Probably 12. Yep.
Okay. And what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your life as a Christian?
Oh, it's Jesus' word. Do unto others as they would do unto you.
Yeah.
You treat everybody like you'd want to be treated.
Exactly.
And your family, that's what I would tell. People would say, well, if I was your mother, what would you do? Well, I treat everybody as that way, and because there's only one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We take that Hippocratic oath, which that's the way you do it.
Yeah. Well, don't matter.
That's right.
Not race, age, sex, creed, nothing.
Yeah.
You're just a body.
You take care of patients like you supposed to, like do unto others as they would do unto you.
Exactly. But I've had my share of having experiences on both ends. Because when I was in my mid-20s, I had a situation where I was literally bent over at the waist trying to get my kids ironing their clothes for school and fixing their breakfast, and my stomach was killing me and I couldn't understand why. So I finally made an appointment to go see a doctor, and she obviously was not, it's hard to believe that she endured or went through all those classes and years of training that was required of her as a doctor, and to misdiagnose me. My gallbladder was about to burst.
Oh.
So I had to have it removed completely, and but I didn't get that diagnosis from her. She told me that I was just a hard-working mother. At that time, I had a business, and she said I was just stressed. It was stress, and I just needed to relax. No medication, nothing. So I was like, okay, thank you. So I went back home, dealing with the same stomach aches, and finally I made an appointment with another doctor. And as soon as I explained to her what I had been going through, she said, I'm going to refer you to another doctor that specializes in, I forget what part of the body, but the mid part of the body. And
gastroenterology, probably.
Yes. So she referred me to him, Dr. Chopin. I couldn't think of his name in the other podcast, the other interview I did, the other show I did last night, but Dr. Chopin was his name. So she referred me to Dr. Chopin. I went and told him exactly what I told the other two doctors, and he ran a test and told me that my gallbladder was inflamed and I needed to go to the hospital and check myself in immediately before it burst. So I explained, I was like, I can't, I was freaked out. I was like, I can't do that. I have kids at home that I need to take care of. My husband, I need to let him know what's going on. So he gave me the weekend. He said, but I want you at the hospital Monday morning so I could do your surgery to take that gallbladder out before you die. So I'm like, oh my God, because if the bile would have got in my system and my bloodstream, that could have killed me.
People used to die from that.
Yeah.
And what would happen too, they could get infected.
Yes.
And you could get peritonitis. People died from that.
It could cause a lot of problems.
Absolutely.
But that freaked me out. So no, my worst yet. And it's funny because I'm like, I can't understand how he couldn't believe that I was that young having that problem. But as I understand it now, it's that's something else that runs in our bloodline. Because my grandmother, she'd always ate vegetables and would eat healthy, small portions. But she had the exact same surgery that I had 1 year after I had it. And I couldn't.
So that's what must have fooled that other doctor.
Yeah. It was already in my system.
Yeah.
From hereditary, regardless of how I ate. It wasn't because I thought it was because of my diet, because my diet was trash. But I ate fried foods, chocolate and starches, and very few fresh vegetables and fruits. But I thought it was just me having a trash diet and lifestyle. But no, that was something else that was part of our hereditary that ran in my bloodline. Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, as your childhood, as a child, were you talkative or quiet, a liar or honest, selfish or kind-hearted, stubborn or easygoing, a bully or a nice kid, a lover or a hater, bossy or passive, curious or unconcerned? You can pick several.
I was probably very curious, obviously.
Okay.
I was not a quiet kid.
Okay.
In fact, I never forget the Monsignor over at St. Francis.
Uh-huh.
When he would pass out the report cards, and he was, I always exaggerate and joke about it, but he was about 9 feet tall and had steel blue eyes.
Oh my God.
Like laser beams. And he'd hand out the report cards, sit at a desk in an auditorium where we were all lined up going around him. And I had good grades, but my conduct always had a C in conduct.
Wow, because you talk too much.
Yeah, I just like, and he would look at me with those steel blue eyes. He says, "Well, Mirrane, your grades are pretty good, but you can't keep your mouth shut, can you?" And I just was mumbling, "Yes, yes, Monsignor, yes, Monsignor." And I just shook away from the desk. And but that, yeah, no, and I was always too afraid to lie, because I knew my mother and father would, and that's the thing of having a great mother and dad was, you can't fool them.
No.
So there was no sense in lying. You had to be honest.
Because you know your kids.
Yeah,
regardless of what comes out of their mouth, you know them. You're the one raising them. So you know them better than they know themselves.
and so I was, I was afraid not to be honest. And that's the way you learn. You learn because you're afraid not to know.
Yeah.
That's part of why we learn is that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I got along with people too. That's another thing. I always got along with people. And I loved to play ball and basketball, baseball, football. I was good at it. And that's when you're in team sports. That also, I think, helps you work with other people as you grow up.
Yeah, that molds you and gets you ready.
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of how I was growing up. I was, I think, well liked by other people because, I just was nice to other people.
Okay. Which is the best way to be. I mean, why would you be mean to somebody?
Well, and if you're going to be a good doctor, you find something else to do. Go rob banks or something like that.
Exactly.
But if you're going to be a good doctor, you got to be good to people.
Yeah.
To be successful at it anyway.
So, and what did you want? Did you want to be a doctor when you grew up?
Yeah, I kind of was very interested in that. I sure was. I always liked the sciences, biology, chemistry, and so I always gravitated toward that.
Okay.
So. Okay,
and what is your favorite childhood memory, and why?
Let's see. Favorite childhood memory. I guess we would every summer go on a vacation. And with the family, and I guess that was a lot of fun.
So you mean trips, not?
We would get in the car and go hither, thither, and
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. And sometimes we'd go visit family up in New York.
Okay.
And we'd take the train, and that was cool.
Ooh,
that was
wow.
Really neat. That was neat.
That
was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I took one train trip with my grandparents, because my grandmother I grew up with my grandmother like my mom, and she's 98 years old now. I was
Wow,
able.
that's fabulous.
Yes, I was able to go and visit. This is the same grandmother that had the surgery the year after I did, and whose family, the birth defect that I was born with, whose side, this is her family, my mom's mom. But the year before my grandfather died, her husband, we took a train trip to Philadelphia, and I felt so special because I was the oldest grandchild, and she was one of my favorite people. So for me to have the opportunity for them to want to take me on their trip, because that could have been their time. They didn't have to take me. So for them to share their time with their granddaughter, I felt so special.
A big deal.
That was a big deal. Yep. I'll never forget that. But then the year later, my grandfather passed away. Yep.
Well, that's all the more reason that you had a wonderful time.
And I'll never forget that.
Yep.
Yep. So.
No, we love going. I love going on the train, and you could sleep so well on a train. It was that rocking and that of the track.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Wow. Do you remember your best friend in elementary school, and are you still in contact?
I had a couple of real good friends, and no, unfortunately not. We're not. We moved off in different directions.
Okay.
But we had a group of kids in the neighborhood. When I tell you, when I go back down to New Orleans, I've stopped many times in the neighborhood and said hello to folks. So, but not in regular contact. No.
Okay. Wow. So what was your
great neighborhood?
What was your favorite junk food in middle school?
Oh, Whopper. I still love a Whopper.
Burger King Whopper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I never considered it junk food. I loved them, man. Lettuce, tomato, hamburger. Oh man, I love a Whopper.
Wow.
I don't eat many of them anymore, but.
And that was your favorite food in middle school?
Yeah, because I'd ride my bike down to Burger King.
Oh wow! So you was going to get your own?
Yeah. Oh, me and my buddy down the street, we would go ride down. It was right on Veterans Highway in Oaklawn. That same Burger King's still there, and we'd ride our bikes over there. And we thought my mama gave us each. We had $1. The Whopper was 37 cents.
Huh?
And the 37 cents. French fries were probably $0.25, and the Coke $0.25. $1. You could have your whole lunch.
Wow.
Yeah, we were. That was a big deal.
That sounds like a lot of fun too. And paying 37 cents, it's like, oh my God. Now a Whopper is at least $6.
I was gonna say yeah. But it was 37 cents a Whopper when it first opened.
That's amazing.
I was probably around 10 when that place opened.
Okay.
And I kept going. I mean, we'd 10, 12, 13 years old, we'd ride our bikes down over there. And I was then in high school. But, oh yeah, we would go down and I'll tell you another fun thing we used to do. The kids in the neighborhood, my mom and my friends' moms, they'd switch turns, and they would drop us off at the Canal Streetcar on Metairie Road or City Park Avenue, and we'd go down to the Sanger or whatever, go watch a movie, and go and eat at the cafeteria, A&G cafeteria or something downtown. And that was a big deal for us.
Wow.
So.
Good times.
Yep. Oh yeah. We had the 60s was a great time to grow up. There was very little bad things going on, and kids could run around all over the place and not, be in danger.
Yeah.
It was a different world.
You know, it's funny because for Thanksgiving, Interviewed 2 older ladies. I wanted to interview my grandmother because she's real talkative, but now she's going back into that baby phase where she just ate and was asleep. Okay. And I had the intention. I went down there, to visit her. I was like, "Hey, Big Mama," and she's like, "Is that my baby? That's Ree?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh my God, is it Christmas?" I was like, "No, it's not even Thanksgiving yet." Because I went the beginning of November, and she was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. I am so happy that you came to see me." And she's blind, so I'm like, "See you, Mama? You mean hear me?" Or have me come here and visit you? She was like, "Yeah, they had you visit me." But she, obviously, she's so used to saying "see." She said "see." I'm like, but I knew what she meant. But it felt good to be welcome back home like that, and because it always feels good to go back home, but to know that she felt that way, was that excited, it felt like it was Christmas that I had came to see her. That meant everything. Everything. So okay, what were you a part of? And I was gonna say, the other ladies that I interviewed, one was from my church. She made 97, Miss Edna, and Miss Irethia is part of my senior exercise group. And when I first got in there, I'm like, well, I'm not a senior, but they start at 50. And I know that I needed, even though I don't have therapy anymore for my rehab, I still need, because I have arthritis in my hip from a fall that I took down the stairs in the apartment we was living in after I was released from the hospital. And I still have arthritis in that hip. And sometimes I'm real stiff because our daughter takes ballet. So a lot of times I'm her chauffeur. I take her to school, pick her up, and I take her to her dance lessons. And while she's in her lessons, I'm usually sitting in the truck working on something. And but my hip gets real stiff. And so I need to work out. I used to go and walk around Audubon Park and do my God walks, and I would have my time with him and admire the creation in nature, walking around the track, and enjoy all of his creatures. But I don't do that anymore. So after I had stopped going to the classes, and I noticed a difference. And it's like God put it on my mind. He's like, you feeling that because you're not going work out. You going home, you dropping your daughter off, you going straight home, staying in that house until it's time to go back and pick up. Or you go and run errands and then come back and pick up. You need to be more social and work your body. So I've started going back, and after I talked to Miss Irethia, who is 86 in our class, and she don't let anything other than doctor's appointments, and she even try to schedule those around her our exercise classes. But she lets very little come between her attending those classes and her not coming. So it's like, you know what? You gonna be my role model. If you don't let nothing come in the way between you and these classes, and she don't just take the classes that's twice a week at the Lion Center, and she lives in Gentilly. She drives from Gentilly to Lion Center for twice a week, and then she takes classes over at another center across the river. But it's like, she is active. And if you see, she's still wearing little heels. She gets out her car, and on Thursday we have floor exercises. She gets out our car with her little heels on. I'm like, at 86. I'm like, I can't wear heels like that. She amazes me. I'm like, you know what? You're my shero. You're going to be my example. Because if you don't let nothing come between you coming to class, you let very little, unless she's sick or just have to go to the doctor at that time. That's the only appointment she can get. She's in class.
Well, remember we said, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah,
Same thing with your body as well.
Exactly.
As we talked about the brain.
Yeah.
But your body as well.
Yeah. So.
That's another thing I do. I regularly exercise no less than 5-6 days a week.
Yeah. 5-6 days?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. See, I used to, when I do my God walks, I used to go every day after I drop my daughter off at school. So it'd be 5 days a week. But when I first started going to the exercise classes a couple of years ago, I would go do my God walks first. And then I'd go, because just to kill time, because I'd sit there, because I didn't have a podcast then. So I needed something to fill the time between. So I'd go and do my God walks. And by that time I'd finish my God walks, I'd have a little bit of time, because class don't start till 10:30. And she has to be at school for 8 o'clock. So between that time, I'd go and have my time with God and do my God walks and enjoy his creations in the park. And after that, I'd either go wash my truck, and by that time, it'd be time for our class to start. Yeah. So, okay, what group were you a part of in high school? The populars, the cheerleaders, the athletics or jocks, the nerds, the creatives, the choir, the drama club, a loner or a pothead, or a pothead, as amazingly as my special guest Tina Myers, the president of our Southern Christian Writers Group, admitted that she was a pothead in school.
No, I wasn't that, but I was an athlete. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, and also I was actually, believe it or not, I was in grammar school. I've got a pretty good voice. I was in the choir.
Oh, wow.
And so that was, people don't believe that, but yeah, I was in the choir. So
wow.
I could say I was a choir boy.
Do you still have a voice?
Yeah, I can still sing pretty good.
That's good. So obviously you're still using it.
Well, when I hit a radio, I put the music on, I can sing, and I don't do it in any band or anything like that.
Yeah, but you're still using it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and how old were you when you started getting interested in the opposite sex?
Say that again?
How old were you when you started taking an interest in the opposite sex?
Oh, well, when I went I was at Christian Brothers for a couple of years, which was an all-boys school.
Okay.
And then I went in 8th grade to Cole, which was a mixed, girl. So I'd say 8th grade. So whatever that is, 12 or 13, 12 or 13, whatever.
All right. And when were you allowed to start dating? At what age?
Probably in high school, I guess, when we were in 9th grade.
Okay.
We there's to the proms or to the homecoming dance and that kind of stuff. That would be it.
Okay. Did you work as a teenager while going to school?
Yeah.
And where?
At Dornax on Veterans Highway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So at the grocery store?
Bagging groceries, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool. Okay, what did you do after you first graduated from high school? Did you go on to college?
Yeah.
Start working, get married, have a child?
I just went to college.
Okay. I imagine you had to start knocking them reels out. You ain't had time for no breaks.
Yep, that's true.
Okay, and what did you... Okay, and what college did you go to?
I started at UNO and played a year basketball because I was a good basketball player.
Did you have a scholarship?
No, I walked on.
Okay.
And the coach, after the first year, told me, he says, "Lucien, you're too small." Because I was 6'2", but I wasn't small, but I was too small to play basketball for the play forward. And he told me I had to concentrate on my pre-med and you're off the team.
Huh?
You know, he was actually, that's what I needed.
But hold on, you're 6'2", and he told you were too small?
Yeah, because I played forward, and those guys were 6'4", 6'5" at least.
Wow.
So I was kind of small, and I wasn't a guard. If I was playing guard, I could probably do it, but I wasn't fast enough. And I was bigger. I was a bigger guy. And so he told me, he says, no, why don't you got to concentrate on your studies.
Wow.
And he was so right.
So
and
that's
I transferred to LSU in Baton Rouge.
After that 1 year at UNO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it at LSU?
Well, it was about the same, but you know, I was busier with a lot of friends. I had more friends there actually from high school.
Okay.
And I wound up playing intramural basketball and football, and it was a lot of fun. You know, all the football games, and we had a lot of fun with it's a party school. But I
even back
what
then,
we concentrated. Me and my roommate, he's an ophthalmologist. I'm a neurosurgeon.
Uh-huh.
We both knew we had to study, and so we really kind of worked with each other to study, and because we took a lot of the same classes.
Okay.
And we kind of reinforced each other.
Wow.
And we had fun, but we limited it.
Yeah. Well, you have to take such a serious major as you guys were.
Yep.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question. What is I've heard of intramural basketball and football, but exactly what is that?
It's they had leagues in colleges for both football and baseball and basketball for guys who weren't playing for the university, but it was an organized by the university for, you know, to play. That's what they called it, intramural. And
so it's not like the go between college and being a professional. That's not
kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And it wasn't. You weren't playing for, you know, the university team, but you were playing, you know, for LSU intramurals, which, you know, you might have 10, 12 teams.
Okay.
And it was like a league. And same with football. That's what I did.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Because I've heard that word before, but I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
Okay. And now is one of my all-time favorite questions that I ask my special guests about their relationships, and their marriages, their engagements, and their backstories. So you're married.
Yep.
How and where did you meet? What's your wife's name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yep.
Cheryl?
Yep.
Okay. And how did you meet her? Where did you meet her? And give us the backstory.
Yeah, well, it's when I went to LSU. She was a blind date, and we went to an LSU football game, LSU in Nebraska.
Oh.
It was September 11th, 1976.
And I remember the date. I am so a man remembering a date like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You breaking the records.
We never saw anybody else again. We got married 2 years later in 78.
Wow. Wait, what was the date again? I gotta write this down. What was the date again?
September 11th.
9/11.
1976, yeah.
9/11.
Yep, 9/11. That's right. So it was a big date in this country's history.
Yes.
A big big date in my history.
Exact, personally.
Yep.
Wow. And you guys got married 2 years later?
Yep, in 78.
Okay.
And I'd gotten into medical school that year, so it was after my first semester of medical school, and she was graduating that semester, end of that semester, and we got married, went on a honeymoon, and that was, we've been together ever since. Had 2 beautiful kids.
Wow. Was it love at first sight since it was a blind date?
It must have been. Yeah, I would say so. If that would be a pretty good explanation.
Exactly. It had to be love at first sight.
Yeah.
And did you guys talk about your future family?
Yeah.
What types of parents you'd be to your kids, the number of kids you'd have?
We lost a kid, one child, but we had 2.
Okay.
And, during pregnancy, she lost it.
Okay.
And it was very sad. But we got 2 beautiful kids, and they're both doing well.
What do you have, boys or girls? Or one
boy and a girl.
Okay.
Oldest is a boy, youngest a girl.
Okay. So y'all got a pair.
Yep.
Okay, and what type of wedding did you have?
We had a beautiful wedding in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Okay.
And which was kind of halfway between. She was from Houston. Her parents were living in Houston, and we were in New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans. And so we met in the middle and had a beautiful wedding there, and then flew off to Hawaii for a honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
And then after the honeymoon, I had to go back to school. And she went to work.
And what did she do?
She was an office manager.
Okay.
In business. Actually in the oil business. Her dad was in the oil business, and she worked for Amoco and when it was in New Orleans.
Cool. And do you guys know what your love languages are? Words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, acts of service, or quality time?
I think quality time is most important.
Okay.
For us, with the 2 of us.
Okay, so moving right along, what are your personal hobbies or pastimes?
I love to fish and hunt. And remember, I don't play basketball or football anymore, but I love that. I watch it, a lot of it. Okay. And but I still fish. I mean, I could fish right off my seawall. I got a seawall and a dock. And
is that part of the reason you moved to Florida?
Yeah, part of it, but part of it, remember I mentioned my family. I got family here now.
Oh, okay.
As well, my sister and so it's a little warmer than New Orleans, not quite as cold.
Yeah.
But I love to fish, and so that's what.
You think New Orleans is cold?
Well, it's colder than here.
True, but I'm thinking about the people who live upstate, because I'm from Houston too, like your wife. Was she born and raised in Houston?
Well, she not really. Her dad was in the oil business, so she was in several places. She started out. Her parents lived in, when she was born. They actually lived in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
But she lived in Midland, Texas, Houston, and Lafayette. He got moved around.
Okay.
And actually, when we were in medical school, he was in Scotland for 4 years.
Wow.
So we got to visit there a couple of times, which was amazing. And so he had a very nice career in the oil business.
I'll say. For him to, obviously a big position. He wasn't no little fish in the pond.
Oh, no. He worked for Unical, and he was higher up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for y'all to travel like that, for him to get those big positions that they had, for him to move to.
Yep.
He was big time.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was.
So I know you know that readers are leaders.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite new read? The title and author.
You know, I read the last book I read about a month ago was the guy that wrote Jurassic Park. What's the guy that wrote Jurassic Park, Cheryl? Michael Crichton.
Okay.
And it was a book. Actually, he's been dead for a while, and his wife found a manuscript that he hadn't finished, and she got a guy who's a author like her husband and writes similar novels named Patterson.
Wow.
It was John Patterson. But anyway, I like that kind of sci-fi stuff, and
okay.
I've read mostly that kind of, but I love history also.
Okay.
I've read a lot of Civil War history, a lot of World War II history, with my father being in World War II, and his brother was actually killed in World War II.
Oh, wow.
So I've got amazing respect for the World War II generation.
Yeah.
And so I've read a lot about World War II.
Wow. So my husband has a liking for science fiction. One of his favorite shows he used to watch was Farscape, and one of the main characters in the movie was named Zahn, Zhaan. And that became, we went through baby books because she's his only child. He helped me take care of all of my older 3 children, but she's his own one and only child. And I even had to, because he was like, I don't need any kids, because I was trying to talk him into having his own child, but he was like, I don't need any kids of my own. I was like, yeah, you need a child of your own. And so we spent hours and days. We bought all of her baby stuff from it was a baby store. I think it's called the Baby Store off of the Causeway in Metairie.
Yeah.
We bought
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we bought all
exactly
her.
What you're talking
yes,
about.
We bought all her comfort. She had a custom comforter, the baby bed, and we bought her this 5-foot giraffe. We no longer have it. And this was exciting that he was having his first child. So that shows how really he was excited. He just didn't want to ask me because he know how much I had been through and how much I was dealing with my other kids. But he deserved his own child because he goes over and beyond for her. That is one little blessed girl, and she's amazing. She's an honor student at it used to be Lusher. Now it's been renamed the Willow Schools. They have the lower school, the middle school, and she's at the high school now. But because the last year it used to just be the lower school and Lusher Higher School, but last year they, in addition to the name change, they opened not last year, when she was going to 6th grade, they opened a middle school that's coincidentally directly behind the high school. And they made that the middle school, and they made it so they took the 5th graders out of the elementary school. So now the middle school is 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And she started that school the year they began the middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, so and I love that because everybody would be new. So she wouldn't have to worry about being the new kid, the new girl.
Right on the block.
Yeah.
Right.
And she didn't have that to worry about because everybody was on the same level. It was a level playing ground. Everybody was looking around, trying to find their way to their classes and getting used to the new building. So everybody was on equal ground. But I love her to death. And she's
the dancer, right?
Yeah, she's been taking ballet. I we didn't go through any of the regular dance schools like, we had to pay weekly tuition or monthly tuition. Right. We went through Nova because when I found out Nova had a dance program for free 99, the best price in the world. Yeah. And she started when she was 6 years old, and she started taking prep. They call it, I don't know. It's the first ballet classes. It's like getting you ready for ballet. And she went on up. It was like 3 or 4 levels. And by the time she was, I want to say maybe 9, we had her, actually, she went from Berman, the Nord Center over here on Berman is where they have their classes. Okay. We went from here, and her teacher, who was about to leave and go to work at the Nord Center, the Gurnan Brown, in yes, I know what it is. Yeah, in City Park. Yeah. Miss what was her? Miss Lynette. Right by Harrison Avenue. Yes, yeah. Exactly on Harrison Avenue. She asked if Zahn could come with her to that school, to that Nord Center, because she saw something in her, special in her. Mm-hmm. And so I told her, okay. So I drove her out to Harrison Avenue, however many days a week they had to have their lessons. And then finally, she transitioned. I found out about them having, that still was in the regular program, but I found out about them having auditions for the pre-professional program. So she started that about 9 years old, and she's been in there ever since. So now she's on orange level. Yep. And she's how old now? She's made 14 on Sunday. That's the miracle baby. Yes, that's the miracle baby. Because and I got pregnant with one tube. One tube. Well, it worked. Oh, you telling me it really worked. But I love her to death, and she's a great student. She's an honor student. She has been taking ballet, like I say, since she was 6 years old. Nova's having their annual Nutcracker Suite show on this coming Sunday, on the day of my anniversary. That normally I use that day to pray and give thanksgiving to God for leaving me here. And but we'll be spending that day as opposed to going to church, because it's going to be on Sunday again. We'll go to the 3 o'clock and the 6 o'clock show and enjoy her performances. Yeah, that's terrific. Yeah, but that's terrific. Yeah, she's definitely a miracle baby, because the fact is that if you would have had this hemorrhage a few weeks before that, could have been a catastrophe. Yeah. Yep. And what would have happened? I would tell you what would have happened. They would have taken the baby and then worried about you. That would have been the general. No. How were they gonna take a life that wasn't even here yet? No. They would have delivered the baby. Okay. No, that's what I mean. Yeah. No, they wouldn't have taken. You know what I'm saying? They would have taken the baby. They would have delivered the baby, and then worried about operating on you. But her life would have came first. Because this was the rationale behind that. We could keep the baby is real quick. Boom, get the baby out, delivered, and then stabilize you, and then operate on the clot. Because we tried to operate on the clot and the AVM, and if something went bad, we could lose both of y'all. Okay. That makes sense. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that makes sense. We had, and I'll tell you that this reminds me of a story at Vanderbilt. When I was at Vanderbilt, there was a woman that came in, and she was devastated by the hemorrhage. She was brain dead. Wow. But what we did, the neurosurgeons, we kept her alive on the ventilator and on all the drips and all that business for because she was about 5 or 6 months pregnant. Oh, wow. And we wanted to get the baby as old as we could, because the mama was going to die. Yeah.
but we wanted to keep the mama, the baby in the womb long enough so she wouldn't be born that prematurely.
Wow.
And we did that. As we were talking, I slowly remembered this story. And so unfortunately the lady didn't make it, but the baby did.
Wow.
And she had the woman had a massive hemorrhage from her, like you. And if this would have happened when you were, like I said, 5 months pregnant, and say you didn't make it, that's the scenario we had, and we kept that baby in there for till 7 months. And then, the baby is not considered significantly premature, less likely to have all the problems a premature baby has.
Yes.
And it was about 7 months they went ahead and delivered the baby.
Wow.
So
this brings
that's
something else.
That's your miracle baby.
Yeah. And we actually have shirts.
What's her name?
Jean-Michel Couillet.
Okay.
Yep. Jean-Michel Jalise, because all my girls have J middle names, and my son's first name starts with J after his dad. He's the third generation. But I stuck with the J middle names for my girls. Yep. But yeah, that's like I say, she's amazing, an amazing student. She's an excellent ballerina, because I'm thinking that sometimes God has to show you literally that you need to work harder, because she got passed up and her friends moved on to blue, and then they moved on from blue to orange, whereas she got held back in teal, because Nova has tracks, like grade levels in school, kindergarten through 12th grade. They have tracks, and it's based on your experience, and you get promoted based on your abilities. So she, when her and her friends were all in teal, because it's Bridge, which is the crossover program, then it's Releve, then it's teal, blue, orange, and purple. Well, she got left back in teal, and her friends moved up to blue, because she didn't put forth the effort to practice before their trial. So it's taken her, and then her friends moved from blue to orange, whereas she got held back in teal another year. So this, and they have, in the summertime, they have special visiting artists that come and do, they call them, like these short learning in a little bit of time. What do they call that? It's camps that they go to, but it's enrichment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't think of the name. It's a name for it. Huh?
I can't either.
Yeah. But yeah, so this last time, in order for her to move up to orange finally and pass up blue completely, her teacher obviously saw that she was putting forth more effort and thought that she deserved to move forth. So now she got a whole different attitude. Sister is dancing around the house, even on her off days. And I'm like,
when it finally clicks, it clicks.
Exactly. But sometimes God has to put you through some stuff for you to get to where he needs you to be.
Right.
So
and you got to, and what a lot of people don't realize, that once you hit a certain stride or get that certain level, there's no stopping you after that.
No. And even though she doesn't want to be a professional ballerina, but she plans on attending Tulane. I asked her if she was gonna dance, because that's where they have their shows and stuff, and they have a ballet a dance program there. And she said no, but she likes that it's a stress reliever, because she stresses sometimes about her assignments and her work. But like I say, she's a great student. So ballet is like her
it's a way out.
Her release. Yes. Her release.
Yes.
So even if she doesn't go all the way and be a professional ballerina. It's just a release. It's exercise because ballerinas are actually good athletes.
Absolutely.
They have to have a lot of strength, core strength, to dance on their toes the way that she's getting ready to learn. And it takes years to get up to that point. You can't just go and put on a pair of point shoes and think you're going to get out there and dance. No. It takes years of training. So, yep. But she even got, now that she's in Orange, they were gifted, the NOBA program were gifted point shoes from a company that NOBA had. I don't remember who donated the shoes, but the girls got free point shoes.
Oh, wow.
So that's another blessing in disguise. So it's like, we're good.
Oh, absolutely.
We're good all the way around. Yep.
Absolutely.
So what do you believe was the best year of your life and the worst?
I guess I would say the best years when we had our two kids were tremendous years. And even though I was a resident working like a dog, it was wonderful.
Okay.
Absolutely wonderful. And the worst, I tell you, the hardest year has been the past year or two, being retired. And we lost our little dog who we've loved. We had for 14 years, actually, almost.
Oh.
And it was very, very hard because he was like another child for us.
Yeah, exactly.
After our kids left the house.
Yeah.
So getting used to a different lifestyle was hard, and I miss what I did. But you don't want to do it forever.
Wow.
As we said earlier, you want to spend some time with family and stuff like that, which we do more, but still it was very hard. But losing that little dog was very, very hard.
Wow.
So.
Okay, I know that being a doctor is quite stressful. What self-care habits do you do to take care of your mental health?
Well, the thing that I've done through the years is just like you were saying with your daughter with the ballet, is I work out. Okay. And I'll work out regularly. When I was working, I would work out maybe 4 days a week. Now I work out 5, sometimes 6 days a week, just to keep the pounds off, but also for stress relief and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, you can't fish every day unless you're a professional fisherman. But then I got some friends here that are really good fishermen, and we go fishing and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. So you still you putting your hobbies are more than just hobbies now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. And what do you do to regularly further educate yourself, such as reading books, listening to podcasts, attending church, Bible studies, seminars, or workshops? Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned before that you're a part of a hospital group with the
college. It's a college, Eckerd College, which is about a couple miles from the house, and I belong to that group where we give lectures and seminars.
Okay.
And so that's that, and I still do a few things with medicine. I'm a consultant with some fusion, where we do spinal fusions. Okay. And I don't do them anymore, but I would consult on some. And I consult with some attorneys about some cases as well.
Okay.
So, I keep my head in the game that way, in addition to those other ways.
Okay. It's amazing how when I went to visit your office and track you down.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, anything worth having is worth working for. And I really put forth the effort to track you down because I was so disappointed when I went in there and they told me, "Oh, he's retired." I'm like,
Becky was helpful too.
Yeah,
Becky
she
really
was very. Yes, she was. She was definitely an important part in this plan
Yes.
So that I could get in touch with you to interview you for my podcast. Because I was like, but I'm his work. He had a hand in him, and God is the reason that I'm still here.
Yeah. No, I was more than happy to do it when I got, the story, the whole story, and then I had to think back, and I do remember you now.
Yeah.
But that took a little while. You're sitting and thinking about a case. And I saw your picture. You sent me pictures, and I specifically now can remember details, and so it worked out.
Yeah.
Worked out nicely.
Yeah. Okay, I have 4 more questions.
Okay.
3 are based on your past life, when you just knew God had been involved because the situation suddenly changed. Something from the past 3 years of your life.
Well, I guess seeing one thing that was came on at the same time that I was retiring was my daughter got married.
Okay.
And that was, because retiring, it was a very unsure thing, or I should say unsure, but, I was worried that, I wasn't going to be Dr. Mirrane, but I am still Dr. Mirrane.
Yeah, you always be Dr. Mirrane.
Right.
Who else would you
still,
be?
In your mind, you wonder about things like that. It's kind of stupid, but it does. Because you're doing that full time, and so that. But then when I got to see my daughter, she was so beautiful in wedding dress, and it was I guess God saying, "Yeah, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine."
Yeah. So God allowed you to actually be a part of seeing your daughter get married.
Yeah.
And enjoy it thoroughly. Were you retired then?
No. You see that I was still working.
Okay.
But I retired a month later.
Oh.
So it helped me bridge that change in my life.
Okay. Wow.
So.
Yeah. I'm writing down. I'm making notes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So him showing you that was like the bridge to let you know that everything's all good.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I would look at it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, a memory from your young adult or teen years where you just knew that God had been involved because your situation suddenly changed.
I think when my mom passed away, and I was 22, maybe just a little older. But that was very difficult. But that's, if anything, my mom was one of my big supporters, wanting, for me to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And, you had your thoughts, well, heck, I don't know if I want to do. But that was when I knew that's what I had to do. And I had to, buckle down and study harder and all that to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that played a part in that, a big part probably.
So her wanting you to pursue a career
as a physician.
Yes.
Yeah. And then she passes away before I even got to medical school.
Wow.
And it's something that I felt that God would want me to do.
Yeah.
And Mom certainly would. And I think, she's proud of a little boy,
Yeah. And don't we all want that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, another memory or something perhaps you were told about your younger self when you were a child, a toddler, or an infant.
We had some good. My mom had a very, very good friend, and I was probably about 7, 8 years old, and I'd go to their house and play with her sons. She had a couple of sons, and that was about the time where I was planting the seed, wanting to be a doctor, and my mother, and she was very good friends with my mother, this lady, and she actually, the coincidence here is she had a ballet school, and my sister would go to a ballet school, but that's an aside. But her name was Aunt. She wasn't an aunt, but I called her Aunt Audrey. So her name was Audrey. I called her Aunt Audrey.
Yeah.
And she said, Lucien, your mom is so proud of you. I understand that you want to be a doctor, and you're so much smarter than most of the other kids around. She actually said that.
Wow.
And mentioned her kids. She said, you're smarter than my kids. You've got to pursue this. Something in those, I can't remember exact words.
Wow.
That was basically it. And that was a bombshell. And I was about 7, 8, maybe 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
Maybe 8, 9 years old. But I remember that somebody who was a very close friend to the family and everything, but not my mother or my grandmother, telling me, you've really got it in your head. You got to go. You got to pursue it.
Wow. That means a lot for somebody on the outside.
Yes.
To tell you that. Because parents can tell you that, but of course, you're theirs. Of course, they want their own seed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, they want their own seed to do well. But for a stranger to see that and call it out in you is something totally different.
And I never forget that she said that. And it struck me. And I've thought of it many, many, many times, as you can imagine, through the years.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was pretty profound. And not as profound at the moment. It was at the moment, but the more I thought about that through the years, even, 6 months later, a year later, that was pretty profound.
Wow. So all your studying paid off.
Yeah. Yes, it has.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
From part of your work.
Yes. And that's just you can imagine, but again, it's hard to imagine from my standpoint the feeling that I got from helping people. It is an amazing feeling, and it would keep you going in times of trouble, and when you're down about something, or you think back. Yeah, you helped. I helped a lot of people, and you tend not to look at that in the moment. But if you look back, you really did do some good. Yeah. And that's what being in this life is about. Every day is a lesson to be learned, and you're here to be a good person. Treat people nice, love on each other, skin color, race, creed, sex does not matter. No, we're here to be servants of God and to serve humanity. Yes. So that's important. Very important. So that's why I'm like, thank you for your hand in, because you played a major part in me still being here for such a time as this. And for God allowing me to have this platform to share my many messes that He turned into messages
for me to give to the masses, to show that you don't have to be perfect and have it all together, because we all are a bunch of, you may not have the same life story that I have, but we all are messed up. Nobody's perfect.
Oh, no, we don't come close to
no,
that.
And never will.
The closest thing, we all have things we're pretty good at and some things we're lousy at.
Yeah, but that's everybody.
Yes, and I was very lucky and gifted to be given the abilities that I did have or do have.
Yeah.
To be a good doctor, and that was a tremendous blessing for me and my family and my patients.
Yeah.
So
I'm a witness.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful time we've discussed this and have had this time together talking about it. And many times during this conversation, I'm thinking about when you were on the operating table and I had your head open.
Exactly.
And everything came out wonderfully, and it's a wow. This will make me feel good for a while.
Well, I'm glad. I'm happy to be able to extend this opportunity to you, and from this point on, I'm gonna have a designated day called 12/8, like 24/7. 12/8 is gonna be my thing, because that's my day. That's the day that I had my brain stroke, and that God used you to save my life with your knowledge, skills, and faith and connections.
And you know what I think of too? Not obviously you, but if you weren't here and didn't make it, what would happen to your husband? What would happen to your daughter and other people in your family that are so important?
Exactly.
So
it's a domino effect.
Yes, absolutely. It affected a lot of other people that I don't even know, never will know.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful feeling, and I guess that's why God's plan is truly a beautiful plan, and
it's hope, amazing. And
I hope I tried to contribute to it as much as I could.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your contribution.
Well, I appreciate it.
I finally had a chance to talk, and I look forward to meet, because we're going to meet one day.
Yeah, when I get down there, I get down there once or twice a year. I'll give you a call. We'll go get some coffee or go get some lunch or something.
I love that. Just let me know.
I would truly enjoy it.
Yeah. Sitting with your patient.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Well, I have one more question. In closing, what does being refined by the fires mean to you? And would you say that you've been refined by the fires?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to go through the toughness and the it's like being in the military, being a doctor, if you will, to go through the boot camp and all of the stuff that knocks off all the slag and all the the laziness and everything else that we all have in us.
Mm-hmm.
That fire made those 11 years I told you about, and even more than that. But that's what brought
forth the beauty of you. That's what gave
being
you
a good doctor.
Yes. That's what made you you.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody has something that they have that God put inside of them. And it's your responsibility to find out what that thing is, because God gave everybody gifts. It's just, like I say, the cemetery is the richest place on earth. Go to any cemetery.
One last thing, if I could. I had the department chairman that I had, who was, my boss, basically, through my residency. And he used to ride me just incessantly.
Yeah.
And he must have seen something, because after the last year or two, kind of let off.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled his foot off the accelerator.
Yeah.
And he knew I was going to be real good.
Mm-hmm.
And at the dinner, he had a dinner. He took me out to dinner, just me.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that I was the best resident that he ever trained.
Mm-hmm. So all that hardness paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing I can figure, why didn't he just fire me and get rid of me?
Because you were good.
Do that. Yeah, because he did fire a couple other guys. Because he recognized something in me
mm-hmm.
that was worth beating on.
Mm-hmm. And how do you beat your meat? How do you beat a steak to get it tenderized to where you can eat it?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's what he did to me.
It has to be beat so the meat can get tender
right.
and take in the seasonings and other things you put in it and on it for it to turn out great.
That's 100% right. And I think that's what Dr. Allen did.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that was my last story of residency. That he was very forthcoming, and so I fully understood him by then.
Mm-hmm.
I fully understood him by then because
it all made sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And like I say, you may not have all the answers because God don't give you everything.
Oh no.
all at one time. You're not going to be able to pack this and that all together to carry in a bag to go wherever you going. No, he going to give it to you piece by piece.
Yep.
Crumb by crumb. And it's your responsibility to pick those crumbs up. Yep, but you got to put forth the effort.
Yep. And that's what, through Dr. Allen, that's what he did.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Yeah. I have one more question.
Yeah.
Where did you named after your dad? Because you're a junior, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know where his name came from? Because Lucien is an odd name.
Yes. His name came from his uncle.
Okay.
And his mom's brother. And my son is the third.
Oh, wow.
So.
I have a son that's the third, too. Joe Reed Kirby the third. We call him Trey. Yeah.
That's exactly what I call him.
Because people are like, some people think that's his name. It's like, no, that's his name. He actually goes by Joe now, but when he was coming up, I never would say Joe. Because it's like, I just didn't. I preferred Trey. And, but now he goes by Joe. Very few people call him Trey. And if you hear anybody calling him Trey, you know that's a childhood friend.
Yeah.
But no. What background do you guys come from? Where are your people originally from?
Yeah. My mother's family came off the boat from Poland.
Oh, wow.
My grandparents.
Okay.
And it lived in New York and then moved down here to New Orleans.
Okay.
And then my other family, my dad's family, was mostly French and grew up in New Orleans.
Wow. So they were already, when they came from France.
Oh, they came.
You know, a lot of people did that.
1850s they came to New Orleans.
Okay.
And my other grandparents came from Poland right before World War I.
Okay.
So in around 1915 or something like that.
Wow. Because you have an odd name. Lucien Mirrane, that's not a common name at all.
Not at all. No.
And Lucien, I figured you had to be, that's an old family name.
Yeah.
That's not just somebody, I'm going to name my baby Lucien.
Right.
No, you named after somebody.
Name.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it. It
truly has been my pleasure too. So we've both had a good time. Yep. So let me pray us out. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for yet another successful podcast interview. We pray it helps someone who runs across my channel or this particular episode now or in the future, but before your return, it will be too late. May they gain all the things that are needed to help make their life and its challenges a little bit better by being in the know. Keep them near you, O Lord, and take care of them as so they may apply something they've heard or learned here today. I believe in edutainment to educate and entertain. So these are our prayers through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Well, again, thank you very much for including me.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah. And you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. I look forward
to. We'll get together when I get down there. I'll give you a buzz.
Okay. Let me know ahead of time, though.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.